Hi, welcome back to the workshop for part 16 of the Thinline Telecaster build. In the last episode I sorted out the headstock transition and fitted the tuners, which only really leaves us two big jobs on the neck, fitting the frets and the neck carve itself. So in this episode I'll be doing the first of those two jobs and fitting the frets. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is some frets. I've got some lengths of fret wire, but obviously this is straight, we need to put a radius on it, so I'm just going to use my homemade radiusing jig. So this is something I've made. I'll put a link up there somewhere to the video I did on it. Quite a simple thing to do. So I've already set this up and I've got a length of fret wire at the radius that's just about right for this. So I'll just pass my remaining fret wire through. We're ready to start cutting. The only problem with this particular radiusing jig is that it tends to leave like the last ½ inch or so a little bit on the straight side, but apart from that, it's spot on. Okay, so that's the wire radius. The next step is to cut these to size. Now this is an unbound fretboard. I don't intend to kind of try and hide the fret ends, so I'm not going to nip the tangs or anything like that. I'm simply going to measure them, cut them roughly to length, a little bit over, and then I've prepared this little board that's got holes in the top that are numbered 1 to 24. We're not going to need that many on this one. And I'm just going to put the frets in there until I need to use them. Okay, so that's my 21 frets cut. I'm just going to stick them, you can't see this, but I'm just going to stick them out of the way in a vise on my other bench. And the reason I do that is fairly straightforward. While I'm knocking the frets in on this bench, there's a fair chance that I might bounce them out of that block and get them all mixed up. So I'm just keeping them out of the way there. Okay, so before I put these frets in, I just need to make sure that I've got this fretboard prepped up properly. Now I've been back over this since I sanded it and everything, and just checked that the fret slots are actually deep enough. And they all are, so there won't be a problem there. But what I'm going to do now, just so that we can make sure that these frets seat nice and easily without too much hassle, is I'm just going to take a very small triangular file and I'm going to just ease the edges of these slots. Now it's a very small, quick step to do, took a couple of minutes, but it is important though, because sometimes if you don't do that, it's a little bit hard to get the fret tang to seat in the slot properly. And what can happen is if you try and knock it in, it'll go in at an angle and you'll kind of bruise your fretboard a little bit. So that's a little bit of an insurance policy against that happening. Okay, so I brought you in a little closer so you can see this a bit better, but with those fret slots opened up a little bit, the only thing left to do really is get these frets knocked in. Now my fret fitting technique is quite rudimentary. If you saw my last build you would already understand this. I haven't got any fancy equipment, I've got a soft faced hammer and I simply just knock them in with this. So the technique you might have seen there is simply I position the fret, tap one edge in, tap the other edge in, and then working from the centre, work my way out to the edges and knock them in, and then just visually check to see that it's seated properly. Which that is. The reason I do it that way is quite simple. These frets have got little barbs on the tang, and what you do when you knock in at the edges and then work from the centre is you force those tangs as they seat to move slightly sideways, and that gives you a really firm grip into that fret slot. Something else I've noticed a lot recently is people talking about putting glue in fret slots when you install the frets. I've done that when I'm refretting a guitar. I've never done it on a new neck. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I've just never felt the need. One of the reasons I've seen given is that the glue in the slot will fill any gaps and aid sound transfer or vibration transfer through the fret. I'm not sure how much I believe that. I think anyone who's tried to make up for some shoddy joinery by filling the gap with glue will understand that as that glue dries, the gap usually comes back. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just not that convinced. Right, I'm going to stop talking and get the rest of these knocked in. Okay, so that's all the frets in. It's not a long job if you do the prep right. That's taken me less than 10 minutes to do 21. So do the maths yourself, about 30 seconds per fret. And they've all gone in really nicely. Happy with that. You can usually see if you look down the neck if there's any gaps with the frets, but I also run a thumbnail along the edge and you'll feel if you can get your thumbnail under there's an issue, but I can't with any of these, they're all spot on. So that's great. So the next job is to just take the cutters and trim the ends down a bit. Just a quick catch up on the rest of the build. I've managed to get the body into a warmer environment over the last week or so, and it's really curing up very nicely now. So I reckon probably another week and we'll be able to start sanding and polishing that. And then we're really going to be getting close to the finishing line on this one. So those frets trimmed down close to the fingerboard, I'm simply going to take a file now and just going to run it along the edge of the neck. So that's running square to the neck, and I'm just going to get those trimmed down till they're flush. Okay, so that's those fret ends filed flush with the edge of the neck now, and you can see that's left a nice neat finish on them. But they're still very sharp. So the next job is to just bevel them over a little bit. Okay, so to bevel these fret ends off, I'm going to use the same file as I did last time, but this time I'm going to put it into this little block of wood that I've prepared. And all this is it's a block of walnut with a chamfer on one edge and a slot that the file will sit into. And the way this works is you run the chamfered edge along the frets, and that will keep the file at the correct angle for just putting the chamfer on the edge. It doesn't take much. And that's it. And that's all it takes really, just to get those initial chamfers put on. Now, one of the main disadvantages to knocking frets in with a hammer is that you don't always get a really consistent finish. And I've been up and down this with a fret rocker, and there are places on the neck where there's clearly a bit of an issue. Mostly it's not too bad. So it is going to need a little bit of a level. I'm not going to do that at this stage though, and the reason for that is quite simple. I've still got a square profile neck, and when I carve this I'm going to be taking quite a lot of material away, and there's the potential in that situation that this neck could move slightly. If I've already levelled and dressed the frets, that limits my ability to correct any issues that might arise. I don't envisage any, I can't see that being the case, but just as a precaution I'm going to leave these as they are now and crack on with carving the back of the neck. However, that's going to be a job for next time. I haven't really decided how I'm going to carve the neck yet. I'm thinking along the lines of a chunky soft V. So let me know what you think about that in the comments, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Bye bye.